Good evening and welcome to Express News. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. 100 news and updates in just half an hour. Let's begin. India and US signed 5 agreements, including Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement during the 3rd annual 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue. Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh terms BECA as significant achievement. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says United States stands with India as it faces challenge to its sovereignty. Raksha Mantri has said that US has backed India's Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative in defence sector, is underlined as a key driver and guiding factor in our defence industrial cooperation. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar said COVID-19 collaboration concentrates more on domains of vaccine and testing that are so central to return of normalcy. Both sides are committed to creating more trusted and resilient global supply chains. India also welcomes expanded partnership with the US. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo expressed his country's support for India in its efforts to defend its sovereignty. After holding important 2+2 dialogues with the Indian counterparts, visiting US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Secretary of Defence Mark Esper met Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh and External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar led the Indian delegations, while US delegation was led by US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Secretary of Defence Mark Esper. Agenda for the 3rd dialogue covered all bilateral, regional, global issues of mutual interest. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said that today is a great opportunity for two democracies to grow closer. There's a lot of points to discuss today: to cooperate amid the pandemic, to confront Chinese Communist Party's threats to security and freedom, to promote peace and stability in the region. US Secretary of Defense Mark Esper at the event said that both countries have strengthened defense and security partnership, especially over the past year, during which advanced regional security and information sharing further aim to cover all issues in the Indo-Pacific. Earlier, US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and US Secretary of Defense Mark Esper met National Security Advisor Ajit Doval in New Delhi. The visiting US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Defense Secretary Mark Esper visited National War Memorial this morning, paid tributes to martyrs. Prime Minister Modi today interacted with the beneficiaries of PM Swanidhi scheme from Uttar Pradesh via video conferencing. And talking to beneficiaries, Prime Minister said that schemes like Swanidhi and Garib Kalyan proved to be beneficial for many people across the country. He said Swanidhi scheme underscores government's policy of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. Prime Minister said previously even employees had to travel far for bank loans, but today bank itself is coming to the street vendors. Prime Minister Modi inaugurates National Conference on Vigilance and Anti-Corruption via video conferencing. PM Modi said, be it corruption, economic offences, drugs, money laundering, terrorism or terror funding, all these are connected to each other. So we need to work together with holistic approach against corruption through systemic checks, effective audits, capacity building and training. PM also said now through DBT or direct benefit transfer, poor gets 100% benefits of government schemes. They get it directly into their bank accounts. The Vigilance Awareness Week 2020 is being observed from today till 2nd of November across the country. On the occasion, Central Vigilance Commissioner Sanjay Kothari administered pledge at Central Vigilance Commission in Satarkta Bhavan. This year, the theme is Vigilant India, Prosperous India. On the occasion, Central Vigilance Commissioner Sanjay Kothari said, we are fully committed to implement the policy of zero tolerance against corruption. Bihar is all set to witness the first phase of assembly elections tomorrow. 71 constituencies spread over 16 districts will go to polls in the first phase on Wednesday. In the first phase in Bihar, out of 71 seats, the Magad region has 53 seats, while Anga has 18 seats. A total of 2.14 crore voters, including 1.01 crore women voters, will decide the fate of a total of 1,066 candidates in Bihar. Out of 1,066 candidates, 114 are women. The Supreme Court has said Allahabad High Court will monitor the ongoing investigation into the Hathras gang rape case. India has achieved several significant milestones in its fight against COVID. The new confirmed cases in the last 24 hours have fallen below 36,500. The first time in 3 months. The new cases were 34,884 on 18th of July 2020. With the high number of COVID patients recovering every day and the sustained fall in mortality rate, India's steady trend of registering dipping active cases continues. The total recovered cases have crossed 72 lakh mark. This has widened the gap between active cases and recovered cases and stands at 65,75,213 as of today. 63,842 patients have recovered and discharged in the last 24 hours. National recovery rate has further grown to 90.62%. Balram Bhargav, DG ICMR, said overall figure in India that below the age of 17 years is only 8% are COVID-19 positive. Below the age of 5 years, that figure would be much less. Balram Bhargav also said Covaxin has got approval for phase 3 trials. Cadila also progressing with phase 2 trials. Serum is completing phase 2B trial and has an ongoing trial in Brazil, South Africa and the US. Income Tax Department today conducted searches in Delhi NCR, Haryana, Punjab, Uttarakhand and Goa. The department busted a large network of individuals running a racket of entry operations and generation of huge cash through fake billing. Documents evidencing accommodation entries of more than 500 crore rupees were seized during the search. Cash of rupees 2.37 crore and jewellery worth rupees 2.89 crore rupees has been found along with 17 bank lockers. S&P BSE Index and NSE Nifty 50 indices rebounded strongly on Tuesday, led by gains in banking. Sensex ended 377 points or 0.94% higher at 40,522 and Nifty 50 index advanced 122 points or 1.03% to close at 11,889. Gold prices rose in early trade in domestic futures market on October 27th, in line with trends in international markets as the US dollar softened. MCX December gold contracts were trading higher by 0.29% at 50,960 per 10 grams. Meanwhile, silver prices on Tuesday rose by rupees 432 to rupees 62,338 per kg in futures trade as participants widened their bets on firm spot demand. On the multi-commodity exchange, silver contracts for December delivery gained some 0.7%. And crude oil prices egged out small gains on Tuesday after recent sharp losses, but sentiment remains subdued as surge in global coronavirus cases hit prospects for crude demand while supply is rising. Brent crude was up 19% or 0.5% at $40.65 a barrel. Petrol and diesel prices remain unchanged on Tuesday as state-run oil marketing companies held fuel prices steady. Rates differ from state to state depending on the incidence of VAT. Meanwhile, petrol and diesel prices in Delhi remain at 81.06 and 70.46 rupees respectively. The rupee paired early losses and settled at 13 paise higher at 73.71 against US dollar on Tuesday, tracking positive domestic equities. At interbank forex market, domestic unit opened on a weak note at 73.94 against the greenback, but soon recovered the lost ground. The Reserve Bank of India on Tuesday asked all lending institutions, including non-banking financial companies, to implement the waiver of interest on interest for loans up to rupees 2 crore for the 6-month moratorium period beginning March 1st, 2020. On October 23rd, government had announced the scheme for grant of ex gratia payment of difference between compound interest and simple interest for 6 months to borrowers in specified loan accounts. Over 4 crores 38 lakh coronavirus cases have been reported worldwide, with over 11 lakh 65,000 casualties. Over 3 crore 22 lakh people have recovered from coronavirus so far. United States continues to top the list among the worst hit countries by the pandemic with the highest number of infections. The United States has over 89,62,000 cases of coronavirus, with the death toll surging past 2,31,000. Facing a record-breaking surge of COVID-19 cases, U.S. border city of El Paso in Texas is now under nighttime curfew, with parks and recreational facilities closed for 14 days. Spain's intensive care wards could reach a critical situation by mid-November as the country emerges as one of Europe's worst COVID-19 hotspots. The country's total number of cases soared by more than 50,000 over the weekend. The death toll is 35,031. Meanwhile, Norway will impose tougher measures to combat coronavirus following a recent rise in number of infections. Prime Minister Erna Solberg said on Monday Norway would stop exceptions to quarantine rules that foreign workers coming to work in Norway have enjoyed until now. From 31st of October, all foreign workers arriving in the Nordic country from EU countries that are experiencing a high number of COVID-19 cases will have to undergo a 10-day quarantine period. While Norway has Europe's lowest level of new COVID-19 infections, the government believes that a failure to impose targeted measures now could lead to a broader lockdown later, like those in several other countries. Europe needs a serious acceleration in the fight against coronavirus, and a lack of contact tracing capacity could drive the disease into darkness. According to World Health Organization in Europe, the picture is unrelentingly grim as string of countries reported record increases. WHO's top emergencies expert Mike Ryan said the vast region comprising 46 countries at WHO accounted for 46% of global cases and nearly one-third of deaths. WHO is finalizing advice on how to minimize the risk when elections in many countries are held during the coronavirus pandemic. Ryan said it was very short-sighted and, quite frankly, very silly, very dangerous, reminding that testing tells you nothing about your future risk. It tells you what the case is right now. Bars and restaurants shut early and closed their doors by 6 p.m. on Monday as Italy imposed a strict new set of rules to try to halt a rapid resurgence in coronavirus cases. Daily infection rates in Italy have been pushed to new records. Demonstrators gathered in several cities and protested against closures and nightly curfews imposed in some regions. Clashes broke out in southern city of Naples and in capital Rome. U.S. President Donald Trump's nominee, Judge Amy Coney Barrett, has taken oaths to Supreme Court. Earlier appointment had confirmed by the Senate. 48-year-old's appointment seals for foreseeable future a 6-3 conservative majority on the top U.S. judicial body. The military leader of Sudan's ruling council sought to defend a U.S.-backed establishment agreement relations with Israel, saying the deal has yet to be concluded and could benefit Sudan as it struggles with a profound economic crisis at the moment. The Sudan leader said the decision to normalize ties with Israel is an incentive for President Trump's administration to end Sudan's international pariah status. Burhan, the head of ruling Sovereign Council, said without normalization with the Jewish state now, Sudan would have to wait deep until next year to be removed from US's list of state sponsors of terror. A bomb blast at a religious seminary in Pakistani city of Peshawar today killed at least 7 people and injured dozens. Peshawar, near the border with Afghanistan, has long been plagued by terrorist violence. Though the number of incidents in the city and in Pakistan in general had fallen over recent years, but there has been an increase this year in attacks on security forces in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, of which Peshawar is capital. According to locals, madrasa is largely for adult students and many were studying when the blast happened. NASA's Stratospheric Observatory for Infrared Astronomy, SOFIA, has confirmed water on the sunlit surface of Moon for the first time. The water found in the sunlit region is far less concentrated than found in the icy deposits on the lunar poles in 2018. An exhibit about time, fashion and duration that explores the ever-changing nature of fashion and celebrates Metropolitan Museum's 150th anniversary opened at Met's Costume Institute on Monday with Virginia Woolf as the ghost narrator. All the clothes on display were black to emphasize changes in silhouette. Exhibit closes on February 7, 2021. A former British paratrooper, John Brem, nicknamed the Flying Fish, attempted to set a new new world record on Monday by jumping into the sea from a helicopter without a parachute from the height of 40 meters. The stunt was arranged in a bid to raise awareness and help prevent veteran suicide. French blind artist IP showed his latest frescoes of giant spray-painted human chain in Istanbul on Monday as part of an art project composed of interlocked hands across the world in a bid to promote humanity and equality. The eighth installment is in Istanbul, is composed of 3 parts. The retrospective to mark the 150th anniversary of Matisse's birth brings 230 works to Paris's Pompidou Center, as its famously bold innovations in color are the perfect antidote to coronavirus gloom. The exhibition presents artist's career in the form of a novel split into chapters, the Fauvism and sculpture to his famous cutouts. The accessory of 2020, the face mask, was combined with 1920s theme fineries by guests forming a socially distant queue for the relaunch of London show, The Great Gatsby. On Thursday, as theatres, music and entertainment venues were shut down, The Great Gatsby is the first West End show to return with fee-paying audiences. Italian tenor Andrea Bocelli performed on the steps of Sicily's Noto Cathedral this weekend. The show, organized in line with anti-contagion regulations from COVID-19, wanted to launch a message of strength and union among the 7 UNESCO sites in Sicily. Real Madrid would aim to return to winning ways in Champions League when they take on Germany's Borussia Mönchengladbach tonight. The Spanish giants lost 3-2 to Shakhtar Donetsk in their first Group B match. The last time Madrid played Gladbach away, they lost 5-1 in 1985. Real Madrid coach Zinedine Zidane hopes to build on the momentum from the weekend's 3-1 win over Barcelona in La Liga when he leads his side against Mönchengladbach. Defending champions Bayern Munich would face Lokomotiv Moscow when they defeat Atletico Madrid last week. And Bayern Munich coach Hansi Flick says Sergei Gnabry could return the starting lineup against Lokomotiv Moscow after an absence blamed on a false positive result in coronavirus test. Atletico tries to rebound from the loss of Bayern when they host Salzburg, with Luis Suarez coming off his 4th goal of the season at the weekend in Spanish League. Shakhtar host Inter Milan with more squad depth than for the surprise win over Madrid last week, after several players returned after isolation following a coronavirus outbreak in the squad. Despite opening the group with a win over Porto last week, Manchester City play at Marseille enduring a difficult start to the Premier League, failing to win 3 of their first 5 games. City are without record scorer Sergio Aguero and fellow striker Gabriel Jesus. Fernandinho, Benjamin Mendy, Nathan Ek and Fernandinho are also sidelined. Liverpool hosts Danish club Midtjylland after hard-fought victories against Ajax and Sheffield United last week. The game at Anfield sees the 6-time European champions host a club who were only founded in 1999 and are making their first presence in the Champions League. Atlanta, a surprise quarter-finalist last season, host Ajax, a surprise semi-finalist 2 seasons ago. Is the first ever Champions League match in Bergamo for Atlanta. Son Heung-min scored the lone goal to seal a 1-0 win for Tottenham against Burnley on Monday. Jose Mourinho's side climbed to 5th in the Premier League table. And South Korea forward Son scored his 8th league goal of the season in the 76th minute, heading in form close range after a headed pass for Harry Kane. Jose Mourinho heaps praise on very clever opposing manager Sean Dyche and predecessor Mauricio Pochettino after Tottenham struck a narrow 1-0 victory over Burnley. The architect turned mystery spinner Varun Chakrabarti says it feels surreal after he got a Made in India call-up for the T20 series in Australia. Varun says he was not expecting to be picked in the national team. He has played only 12 T20s and featured in the lone first-class game. Canada's Denis Shapovalov suffered a shock straight set loss to Georgy Rodionov in Vienna. Russia's Andrei Rublev rolled into the second round with a 6-3, 6-2 win over Slovakia's Norbert Gombos. And Monfils also suffered a loss when he was forced to retire with a neck injury in the second set against world number 15 Pablo Carreno Busta of Spain. The nail-biter South Africa Kevin Anderson saved 3 consecutive match points to come back and beat Denis Novak of Austria in a final set tiebreak. Novak Djokovic will equal Pete Sampras's record of finishing the year as world number 1 6 times if he wins 2 matches in Vienna this week. This will be also a boost for Djokovic's hope of overtaking Federer's record of number of weeks being world number 1. Djokovic is now just 18 weeks behind Federer's record of 310 weeks. And organisers of Eurovision Song Contest on Monday announced dates for the 2021 edition to be held in Rotterdam with the theme Open Up. The European Broadcasting Union has said it is working with 4 scenarios ranging from relatively normal version of the contest to one which is Netherlands is in lockdown. The Eurovision Song Contest is one of the world's largest television events, drawing up to 200 million viewers. Eurovision features live musical numbers from most European countries and a few beyond, including Israel and Australia. Canadian musician The Weeknd newcomer Roddy Ricch led the nominations on Monday for the 2020 American Music Awards, with first-time nominee Megan Thee Stallion snagging most of the nods for female artists. Ricch and The Weeknd earned 8 nominations apiece. And despite dominating the Grammy Awards in January with 5 wins, 18-year-old Billie Eilish got just 2 nominations on Monday for Best Alternative Rock Artist and Favorite Social Artist. K-pop group BTS were also shut out of the top categories, winning just 2 nominations for Best Group and Favorite Social Artist. Taylor Swift already holds the record for most American Music Award wins of all time with 29, got 4 nods stemming from her surprise summer album, Folklore. Actresses Joan Collins, Jane Seymour and Dennis Richards presented in Madrid on Monday the premiere of the new series Glow and Darkness. 87-year-old British actress Joan Collins said the hardest thing of shooting was knowing the dangers of getting in contact with the virus. The new Spanish series, directed by Spaniard Jose Luis Moreno with host of international actors, tells the story of Saint Francis of Assisi with characters as Barbarossa or Eleanor of Aquitaine. Jane Seymour, who plays Eleanor, considered shooting under these extraordinary times a privilege. Meanwhile, Dennis Richards thanked Spanish director Moreno for keeping everyone safe. The series will have 4 seasons starting at the beginning of next year. The director of Bruce Springsteen's latest live album film described watching the Boss and E Street Band work as magical. Tom Zimmy, who has worked with Springsteen for nearly 2 decades, described watching the musician create their trademark sound for the album Letter to You is very special. And finally, in the film, Springsteen, who turned 71 last month, reflects on aging and inevitability of death. Zimny first worked with Bruce Springsteen and E Street Band in 2001 for Live in New York City. And with that, we conclude this edition of Express News. News and Update continue after a short break. Namaskar.